This week on the Organized Life podcast.
Planning a trip from New York to LA by car, and you got a beautiful map, but then you don't fill up the tank.
Yeah.
And by the way, notice if you're driving from New York to LA, you got to fill up the tank more than once.
More than once.
And that's why the why has to be something that you keep in front of you. And then the truth is, it's also kind of like you begin to uncover more of the why as you go, because it's the journey that really lets us discover our calling. In fact, I argue that our calling is not a thing or a place or a job. It's that underlying thing that connects you to all of those things. Your calling is really much more your why than your what. When you realize that, well, then everything I do is just helping me uncover information that either it feels more aligned or it feels less aligned. You know, this is the right direction, this is the wrong direction. It's not good or bad, it's just information.
Hey, and welcome to the Organized Life podcast, where we are creating a movement with powerful organizing strategies and systems that save you space, time, energy, and money. I am your host, TakillaRene, the life organizing strategist, professional organizer, and the owner of Xtreme Audacity Organized Solutions. And you guys, today I am so excited that we are continuing this journey of creating the organized life. Listen, this journey of creating the organized life isn't just about your space and getting your space organized. It's about creating a life full of peace and productivity that pushes you towards purpose. And so today I'm joined by Scott Maderer. He is the co-founder of Inspired Stewardship, a stewardship coach who helps people to align their time, talent, and treasures so they can live fully in their calling. Now you see why I have Scott here today, right? So listen, what excites me the most about this conversation is how our conversations, they closely overlap the people we work with, right? So Scott, he works with Christian men and couples who are struggling to live out their calling, right? So they look good and successful on paper, yet they feel stretched thin and distracted, or maybe even misaligned in how they are actually living. All right. So one thing that Scott said to me when we talked a couple of weeks ago is that the problem isn't your time or money. It's actually you. And guess what? You are the answer. And when he said that, I was like, okay, yep. We got to talk about it. Let's talk about it. And so that's exactly what we're going to do here today on the Organized Life podcast. So, Scott, I told them a little bit about you. Would you do us the honors of telling us a little bit more about you and how maybe Inspired Stewardship got started?
Sure, absolutely. I'd be happy to. So, you know, I'm a father, I'm a husband. My son is successfully out of the house and on his own. So, you know, we're now empty nesters. He hasn't boomeranged yet, at least. So we'll see.
Yeah.
You know, he's 22. He works for a grocery store here in Texas. My wife works for a pet company as a groomer and bather for dogs. And I run my own business with Inspired Stewardship. Of course, my wife runs that with me. So going back in time, I actually started careers going into medical research. I have some hard science degrees and did medical research for a little while. Figured out that I didn't like that because it was all about chasing grant money. I really didn't want to chase grant money. So I pivoted and became a school teacher. I was a school teacher for 16 years, taught middle school, taught high school, real involved in systemic reform and adult, helping teachers become better teachers, mainly in the science field. Eventually, and I'll kind of tell you some corporate journey, and then I'll come back and connect it to where Inspired Stewardship came from, because it's kind of in the middle. It's in the middle of this journey. So eventually my wife and I went through some things that I'll expand on in a minute. As part of that, I ended up leaving teaching and going into the corporate field, still in education, but in a corporate. I was working for a testing company. So I went from teaching to testing. My students said I joined the dark side. I did. There was great things about that. I started getting promoted in the corporate and moving up to kind of a executive position. I climbed the corporate ladder, the way you're supposed to. And while that was going on is when the coaching business was born. So going back in time a little bit, while I was still teaching, I began to realize that my wife and I had more debt than I made in a year. I began to feel like a terrible husband. I began to feel like a bad provider. All of these kinds of emotional problems going on in my head, all about money. I'm going to protect my wife from all of this stress. So I'm not talking to her. I'm not communicating with her. Yet I also am doing bad behavior, like going out and spending money that we didn't have and doing all of these sorts of things. And as that stress built up, my wife and I were headed towards divorce. I also became suicidal because of finances. I actually began to plan out a way that I would drive off the road and make it look like an accident and all of this sort of thing. And in the middle of that, I began to hear some messages on the radio where talking about being debt free. It was actually the Dave Ramsey show, talking about being debt free, people talking about how they did it. And I realized for the first time I was getting angry at the radio instead of feeling suicidal. And I'm basically yelling at the radio on the way home about how stupid this is. Nobody can do this. This is foolish, blah, blah, blah. But what was interesting is eventually I heard somebody on the show whose story was not identical to mine, but similar. And there were enough connections, enough points that were similar. And one of the things they said is the first step they did is they sat down with their wife and came clean and told them what was going on. And then once them and their wife started working together, everything changed from there.
Wow.
So I decided, okay, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to go talk to my wife. I'm going to fess up on all this terrible stuff that I'm doing, that I've been protecting her from. She doesn't know anything about it. My wife knew everything.
Right.
Okay, my wife's a smart lady. She knew what was going on, but she was trying to protect me and not add to my stress. So she's not talking to me. I'm trying to not add to her stress. So I'm not talking to her. It's the absolute worst thing we could have done, right? It made the situation worse, not better. So we came together. We said, we're going to radically change the way we live our life. We're going to radically change the way we do things. And as we began to do that, began to make some progress, the corporate transition kind of happened during that same period. I actually had some major surgery. So we started the journey with $68,000 in debt. We actually ended up paying off over $70,000 in debt because I got to pay hospital bills twice.
Right.
Because I went to the hospital in December with a collapsed lung. They fixed it. They sent me home and then it collapsed again. So I had to have surgery in January.
Oh, no.
Right. Insurance. I got to pay everything twice, because it's reset with the new year. So we did all of this, doing all of these. So it wasn't a linear journey. It wasn't straightforward. But what happened is people started noticing that we were living different. And they started noticing how our attitudes were different and our communication was different and our marriage was different. And literally people kind of came up. And my favorite one, I always quote them, is somebody actually came up to me one time and said, "Y'all are weird. Do you think you could help me be weird?"
That's
I'm like, yeah,
so
absolutely.
Funny.
I can help you be weird. Sure, we can do that. And so we started working with people and coaching, and it started as a ministry, and then eventually it transformed into a business. And while I'm climbing the corporate ladder, I have this part-time coaching business that's kind of growing alongside it. So eventually I realized the coaching was more of my calling than the corporate. So I climbed back down the corporate ladder, trained my replacement, got somebody in my position. Took me over a year to leave the company and then launched the coaching business as a full-time business. So I started it part-time in 2011, full-time in 2017. My commute's a lot better. The coffee's better in the break room. I get to have lunch with a really pretty lady most of the days, that kind of thing. So it's a much better environment now and more of my calling. I've worked with over 1,000 clients in 20 countries and 38 states, and I love what I do.
That's awesome. That's such a great story. I love that. Wow. Okay. Well, there's Scott, you guys. All right. So I just kind of semi-quoted you. I kind of put a little twist on it, right? The problem isn't your time or money. It's you, and you're the answer. So how does that mindset, first of all, tell me how you got to that conclusion and how that mindset shifts. How does that change someone? How does that change someone? And then let's lean a little bit. That's like three questions. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I can unpack them. Keep going.
Okay.
What's the fourth one?
So how does that also for somebody that's trying to create the organized life, how does
Right.
that help them? So
Yeah.
right, how did you come to that conclusion? How does that mindset shift help people in general? And then when you're trying to create the organized life, how does that help you also?
Yeah, and I by the way, I do agree with you. I think a lot of times people that need an organizational coach, they need an organizational coach in other areas of their life than just their physical space sometimes,
Yes. Yes.
and so I agree with the overlap, and so I'll kind of unpack that a little bit at the end. But what I mean by it's not really time and money, they're the symptom, not the problem, is how I put it. Because what happens is when we're not making good decisions about our time or our money, when we haven't done the work to identify what are our real values and what is our why, what's our purpose, what's driving us, not just what are we doing, but why are we doing it? And until we really have that understanding, we just tend to kind of almost react with our time and our money. And so this is where people have language like, I had to do that, or I had to buy that. You didn't have to do anything.
That's right. That's right.
You chose to do that, but that feels uncomfortable, right? We don't like admitting that I made a choice. It's like that. If I say I had to do it, well, see, it's not my fault. I had to do it. It's like, well, yeah, no, you didn't. You chose. Okay. Let's admit it. And that's what I mean by you're actually the problem and the solution, by the way, because if you're making choices, you can make different choices. You have that power. Cleaning your closet. Guess what? You can hang all your clothes in the closet, or you can go through it and you can go, I don't need some of these, take them down to Goodwill or whatever. It's a choice. It's a decision that's followed up by action. And it's also a belief that's followed up by action. And the interesting thing is people will ask, which comes first, the belief or the action? The answer is yes. Because it's not a line. It's a circle. Right. And where's the beginning of a circle? Anywhere you want. Okay. Right. How do you draw a circle? You just draw the circle. And most of us have a habit of where we start, but technically you can start anywhere to draw a circle, right? You can start on anywhere and you end up back at the same point. Same thing for belief and action, or decision and action. Sometimes for some people, if you start acting a certain way, then you begin to believe that that's true.
Yeah.
There's also people that begin to decide, hey, I'm going to believe this. And then now that helps them be in action. It's both directions. It's a feedback loop that can be a negative feedback loop or a positive feedback loop. If I believe I'm lazy and I act lazy, it reinforces the belief, which then reinforces the action, and pretty soon I'm lazy.
That's so good.
But if I believe I'm a writer and I start to write, and because I start to write, it's like, well, yeah, obviously I'm a writer. I'm writing.
That's right.
I believe I'm a writer, and then I write, and then I believe I'm a writer. Pretty soon I've published 5 books, because that belief and that action are intertwined. And I think that ultimately brings you back to that first point of, what's the connection to an organized life? The truth is, whether it's your physical space, whether it's your mental space, whether it's your money, whether it's your calendar, whether it's the time you spend in relationships, the truth is, until you get those limiting beliefs drawn out and understood, until you begin to change and follow through and take action, until you know what your values and your priorities are, the rest of this stuff doesn't matter, and it's never going to be sticky, and you're never really going to fix health. Go to the gym. I don't care. Pick an area. They're really all the same.
Yeah.
It's just what lens are you needing to look at it through for you at this phase?
At this moment. Yeah. This phase of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that's different for different people at different phases, and that's okay.
And that's
make it
okay.
Wrong. It's just different,
Yeah. So you talked about the why, which if you're a coach, you got to talk about the why. Okay. One of the things that that I do is at the beginning, I talk about the why, right? And then at the end, I feel like if you can walk through this journey with me, you'll be pushed even closer to the why,
Mhm.
right? So that's why I say it pushes you towards purpose. So what are your thoughts on that? Like the why, and then how the journey, it pushes you towards that.
Yeah, I think, and you're right. I think if you're going to work with folks as a coach, you need to understand the concept of a why. And I'll put it into an analogy kind of for a moment for folks that maybe are hearing this for the first time. A goal is good, and it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Here's what I mean. I'm going to use money stuff just because that's where we started today. So I want to get out of debt. I'm getting out of debt. I've gotten out of debt. That's a goal. It has a beginning, as a middle, and as an end, right? I want to get my closet organized. I'm getting my closet organized. I've organized my closet, beginning, middle, end. Those are goals, and goals are good. Okay. Think of goals like a map. They tell me where I'm going. They give me the destination.
Right.
The why is the emotional driver behind it.
Yes.
Why do you want to have an organized closet? Why do you want to go to the gym? Why do you want to get out of debt? And here's the interesting thing. When the why is like the fuel that you put in the motor. Let's face it, if you're planning a road trip and you don't top off the tank, I don't care how good your map is, unless it's a really close destination, you're not going to get there. Right. And so it's like you're planning a trip from New York to LA by car, and you got a beautiful map, but then you don't fill up the tank.
Yeah.
And by the way, notice if you're driving from New York to LA, you got to fill up the tank more than once.
More than once.
And that's why the why has to be something that you keep in front of you. And then the truth is, it's also kind of like you begin to uncover more of the why as you go, because it's the journey that really lets us discover our calling. In fact, I argue that our calling is not a thing or a place or a job. It's that underlying thing that connects you to all of those things. Your calling is really much more your why than your what. And when you realize that, well, then everything I do is just helping me uncover information that either it feels more aligned or it feels less aligned. This is the right direction. This is the wrong direction. It's not good or bad. It's just information. And it begins to let you uncover and dive deeper and realize, at first, maybe you articulate your why. So for a lot of people, and I'll use the example of parenthood, when they have children, they begin to articulate their why in terms of their kids.
Yeah.
I want my kids' life to be better. I want my kids to do this. I want my kids to do that. Here's what's interesting. At some point, those kids probably move out.
Hopefully.
And now what's your why?
Right.
If all you've done is identify your why only in terms of your kids, then a lot of times the kid moves out and they kind of feel lost. So, okay, great. What's deeper? Why do you want your kid's life to be better? So it's the why behind the why,
Why? Because
what's the why behind that why, and then what's the why behind that why? That's behind that why, and you can just keep going deeper and unpacking more. And it gives you more and more fuel. It's like, you keep topping off the tank. You're giving you more and more fuel so that you can make that journey.
So 2 things you said that's great. So I think on the last 2 or 3 podcasts, we've talked about this concept of asking why and then asking why again once you answer that question, and then asking why again, like asking why 7 times. Yep. And you'll actually get to the depth of what that answer really is. And another thing that you said is that you keep uncovering things about the journey while you're on the journey.
Yeah, it's feedback.
Yes. And so when I'm working in someone's physical space, and even during the coaching, like once we start to declutter, their mind gets open.
Yep.
They just start to see their space differently. They start to uncover more of the journey inside of the journey. Their space looks different. It looks larger. It looks prettier. It looks all these things. Maybe they find the whole wall painted with markers and stuff. They find something. but it looks different, and they start to really see what the space could be. So we start to uncover more. And so I just thought that was very interesting that you said that, because it's the same way when I'm working with clients in their physical space. It's a path that we're taking to get to the end goal, and you start to uncover some of the same things.
Well, and you begin to, they even understand more, taking physical space, about even why are they holding on to things?
They do.
And what is why would I want to hold on to this, but not that? Why is that have meaning and this over here, who cares? And what do I keep and what do I throw out is actually a lot deeper than just what fits, because there's some stuff I have that, you ain't getting me to throw that out. It has emotional meaning. I don't care. It's going with me. I grab it on the way out of the house in a fire, kind of thing. And then there's other things that are like, yeah, truth be told, I just have it still because I haven't thrown it out, because I haven't gotten organized. I didn't think about it, and so it is. And the same thing's true of money. There's things people spend money on that really and truly, when you sit down and talk to them, they're like, well, yeah, I'm just spending money on that because it's a habit. Not because it's actually, I've never actually examined the habit to figure out whether it's a good habit or a bad habit. I'm just doing it. Same thing for time. We have things that we spend our time on that are actually really in alignment and vital. Truth be told, we probably have some things that we waste time on. Most of us do.
Yeah.
And that's, again, it's not a value statement. It's just an observation of if you don't take that energy to be intentional, which takes energy, by the way, you have to put effort into it. Then, it technically, again, science teacher, it's called entropy. Entropy is the law of thermodynamics that says all things tend towards disorder unless energy is put into the system to keep the system ordered. It's why you have to clean your room. Because if you don't put any energy into it, just over time, those little bitty changes that you make disrupt, and eventually that piles up, and now you've got a mess. Okay. It's true of our mind. It's true of our money. It's true of our time. It's true of our physical space. It's true of our relationships.
Scott,
bag up and clutter up the thing.
Yeah, they didn't teach that about the rooms in my son's science class. I can guarantee you that.
You should have had me as a science teacher. Actually, so I don't know. You see the apples on the shelf behind me?
Yeah.
Those are actually Teacher of the Year awards for the state of Texas. I've got two of them, so I did do a pretty good job as a science teacher.
Well, good.
But yeah, entropy is simply the law of disorder. It just means that if you don't put energy into a system, that system is going to become less ordered, less organized. Okay. So, the truth is, the reason your house gets messy, it's a law. Okay. It's like literally a law of thermodynamics, but that's why you got to put effort and intention into it, and the reason your money gets messy, the reason your life gets messy, it's just going to happen unless we put energy into it. And energy, it means intention. It means attitude. It doesn't just mean doing the physical work. It literally means all the mental work of figuring out the why and all of that stuff. That's the more important part of it.
That's so good. All right. So we're going to move on, but that was good. So listen, you help people transition from working to actually living their calling, right? So what shifts would someone need to make to stop organizing their life around task and maybe start organizing their life around purpose?
Yeah, so it's interesting because first off, let me kind of define some terms. So I'm a language guy. I'm a word guy. I like to make sure that if I use a word, we're all using it the same way. So a lot of times we use the word career and vocation interchangeably. Right? What's somebody's career? What's somebody's vocation? Usually people will give the same answer to that question. Okay. Yeah. I don't, by the way. Okay. My career is the coaching thing. My stewardship coaching business. That's my current career. I've had other careers in the past. That's my current career. But my calling is really that I am gifted at helping other people unpack and uncover what's really important to them. Guess what? I did that when I was a teacher. I did that whenever I was in the corporate world. I do that now as a coach. I've done that as a father. I've done that as a husband. That's who I am. That's the purpose. And it can show up in a lot of different ways. It shows up not just in my career, but in other things, right? It shows up in how I have this conversation with you in the interview. That's what I do. That's who I am. That's how I'm wired. That's who God made me to be. However you want to phrase it. So let's go back to career and coaching and vocation. Career comes from the root word for cart. It literally means something that transports you from part A to part B, something that moves you along a path. That's all the word career means. Okay. It means I'm going along a journey or a path. So stop and think about it. That's what happens, right? You get a job and then you get promoted and then you get promoted, and it's a career journey. We even say that, this is my career journey.
Yeah.
And if I change careers, I'm really just changing paths. And a lot of times that shows up in what you're paid. Okay. That's a career. So then vocation comes from the root word for vocal. So vocalis is the root. Vocal, vocalization. Think about what those words are. They have to do with speech, right?
Right.
They have to do with being spoken to. So your vocation is the thing you're called to do. That's where calling comes from. Okay. So first off, by definition, if there's a vocation, there has to be if I'm being spoken to, there has to be a speaker.
Right.
And
that's true.
For me, I ascribe that to God. I'm a person of faith.
That's right.
That's the name I give it.
Me too.
But again, I don't care what name you give it.
Right.
You're saying there's something bigger than me that's driving me. That's the purpose part. That's the thing. It's again, we're back to the why in just a different way. It's the thing behind the thing, not the thing.
Right.
But the thing that's behind the thing, the cool thing about that is once you begin to identify that, then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, it's no longer about work. It's about who I am. It's about how I'm wired. It needs to show up in different ways, into different levels, but it needs to show up in everything I do, not just what I get paid to do, And so now, like as a coach, I traveled to a conference last week and I was talking to somebody and pretty quickly they had something that was going on and I immediately switched into coaching mode and I'm starting, to coach with them. We sat there for like 2.5 hours. And at the end of it, he's like, you've given me like 2.5 hours of coaching. You never once mentioned being paid for it or anything. Dude, what are you doing? Why haven't you tried to sell me? And I'm like, because this is just who I am. It's not about getting paid.
That's right.
By the way, we have an appointment later and he's thinking about maybe hiring me as his coach, but it's, that really wasn't my goal it's not, there was no intention for that. And when you can have that authenticity to how you live, other decisions become easy. And that's kind of what you're talking about with how does this help us move? Because now all of a sudden our focus, instead of on everything that's wrong, our focus begins to become what's right. What's going to move me towards this, getting more of this.
Right.
And truth be told, until you're moving towards something, not away from something, it never sticky. Because moving away is a fear-based response.
Gotcha.
Moving towards is a growth-based response.
I like that.
So one of those is the fruit of the spirit, the other isn't.
Yeah.
And so one of those is real and lasting and true, and the other one's just temporary. That's and good. When you realize that, it helps give you the energy to go, oh, that's why I have to uncover my purpose and the things that give me energy. And that's why that, by the way, it's a weird thing because it's you uncover it by paying attention to what gives you energy, what gives you joy, what feeds your soul.
Right.
Okay. But then again, feedback loop, right? You pay attention to those things, but then you do more of those things, which then feeds you more.
Right.
And now it's a positive momentum. It's a positive feedback loop. You're moving forward again. And now it's no longer fear-based. So instead of paying attention to what was wrong, you pay attention to what is right. And it moves you in that direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for Scott, for someone that maybe feels disorganized, like spiritually, mentally, practically, emotionally, or any of the leads, right? What is one stewardship-based step that they can take this week, maybe, right, or to begin living more organized life?
So I'm going to give you, let me give you a time one and let me give you a money one,
Okay.
just to kind of help people that maybe are struggling in either of those areas.
Okay.
And really and truly, they're the same thing, but I'm going to give you different language because we think about them different ways. So from a time perspective, okay, the first step to anything is awareness. So literally sit down, take a sheet of paper, and put down every 30 minutes down the left-hand side of the paper from when you get up to when you go to bed. Set an alarm on your watch or on your phone to vibrate or to go off every 30 minutes. If you work in a place with lots of other people, make sure it's a silent alarm so they don't kill you. But every 30 minutes, have it vibrate or go off. And when it goes off, just jot down what you did during that 30 minutes. And you don't have to be detailed. This is not about writing a dissertation. We're not writing a book. Just capture. I scrolled Facebook for a while. I answered some emails. I did this, whatever you did. Do that every 30 minutes and do that for a week. And then sit down with it and look at it. Okay. And start looking for patterns. Start looking for what shows up. Start looking for what doesn't show up. And by the way, if you've told me something like, my family is important to me, and then you look at where you're spending your time and your family's not showing up very much, are you lying to me or are you lying to you? Because that's not true, because it should show up in your time. Pay attention to what shows up and what doesn't show up. And that awareness is the first step to organizing it. Because until you know what's going on, you don't even know what to pay attention to. You don't even know where to begin to unpack it. Now, I will give you a real small trick on the time one. It's a language one. You also are no longer allowed to say, I don't have time for that. Remove those words from your language.
Why?
And instead say, that's not a priority for me right now.
Okay. I like that. You answered my question.
Because that is the truth. That's the choice you're making when you say, I don't have time for that. You're saying what I'm doing right now is more important than that other thing.
Yes.
And it'll make you behave different. Imagine for a minute that you're sitting there and, I'm going to make you a cubicle worker. I have no idea if, people listening right now, imagine for a minute, you're in your corner office, you're in your cubicle, you're typing away, you're answering emails. It's towards the end of the day and your coworker swings by and goes, hey, wasn't your daughter's soccer game tonight? Don't you need to head out so you can make it? And if you look at them and you go, I'm a little busy right now and I'm probably not going to make it. Your coworker kind of sympathizes with you, right? They're like, oh yeah, we're all so busy. I'm busy too. It's busy, 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 busy. They pat you on the back. Too bad, so sad. And they wander off. If on the other hand, you looked at them and you said, it's really not a priority for me to make it to my daughter's soccer game. And you had to say that out loud to another human being.
Yep.
First off, that other human being's probably going to smack you upside the head and go, what are you talking about? Shut down the computer, go, make it to your daughter's game. But so they're going to react differently, but you're going to react differently.
Yeah.
Choice, because when you say that out loud, probably you can log into work and answer those emails in a couple of hours after the game is over. And it's probably not going to get you fired or kill anybody. Now, if you're an open heart surgeon and this is the middle of OR, okay, different situation. But, if truthfully, most of us do not have a job that 2 or 3 hours is going to fail. It's going to cause us to get fired or someone to die. Money's the same thing. It's a matter of sitting down first and paying attention to where's your money going. Yeah. That literally means getting the bank statements out, getting the credit card statements out, whatever it is, and writing it down. As simple as writing down, what did I spend money on today? And do that again for a week or two. Pay attention. Start looking for patterns. Where is your money actually going? You can use a tool. You can use a yellow pad. Okay?
Right.
A lot of times people ask me like, what's the right app? the one you'll use.
Right.
I mean, because honestly, if you have the best app in the world, but you never turn the stupid thing on, it ain't helping you a bit. You're wasting money. So,
oh my goodness, yes, the one you're gonna use,
the one you're gonna actually use and follow through on. That because that's what's important. I'm kind of tool agnostic. I have some tools that I know work.
Yeah,
they don't work for everybody.
And they don't work if you don't use them.
And they aren't going to work if you don't use them. So let's find whatever you're going to use and let's use that. So you begin to track and you begin to pay attention that way. Because again, it's the same thing. Now here, the language part of it is, instead of, it's not a priority for me, though technically you could use that same language. The way I like to say it there is, again, this is where you're removing that had to. I had to buy it. You now change your language to, I chose to buy it. And all of a sudden, again, you'll make different decisions.
Yeah.
Because if I have to tell someone, I chose to spend my money this way, there are things that I'm not going to say out loud, because they would feel uncomfortable.
They do.
And your brain realizes that, and your brain will go, ooh, I'm not going to like that. I don't want to do that. And you'll make a different choice a lot of times, but not always, and not in every situation. And yes, we get tired and we fall down and all. This is why you have to build systems and processes and accountability and all that other stuff. And that's why, again, for you, that's why bringing someone in to go, okay, we're going to sit down and do this together, has so much value.
Yeah.
Because that gives you that energy to start overcoming it. But just paying attention to what's already there, awareness, single first step for time or money to begin to change and make different decisions about what you do and why you do it.
I think we don't want to be aware.
Absolutely. It's easier. If I don't pay attention, I had to do it. And I'm too busy. See, it's not my fault.
Yeah, it's better to be ignorant. Ignorant is bliss, right?
That's what they say. It's really not.
It's really not. It's really not. So I'm very okay. So when you said put the clock on for every 30 minutes, the timer on, when I thought about that, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do that, but I think I'm going to try it. I'm pretty aware for the most part, but I don't know that I'm fully aware.
It's interesting. Most of us have a certain degree of time blindness. And by the way, that's positive or negative. So like I'll ask people with money and time both. I ask people before we've ever looked, I'll ask them things like, how many hours a week do you think you spend watching TV? I'm just picking on TV right now. There's nothing wrong with watching TV, but just using that as an example.
Right.
Or how many hours do you spend in the car? Or how many hours do you spend, or with money? How much do you think you spend on eating out? How much do you think you spend on entertainment? How much do you think you spend on groceries? And people will give you a number. They'll tell you a number of hours. They'll tell you $1. 85 to 90% of the time, they're wildly wrong.
Way off.
Okay. In something. Okay. It may not be everything.
Right.
Some where they're like, yep, I've got that one down. But there'll be a few that they are completely blind to.
Yeah.
And wildly wrong about.
Yeah.
And it's always a shock. It's always a surprise. They always look up and are like, I can't believe I'm spending that much time or money, don't care, on fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's a different thing. For some people, it's different. A lot of people with money, it's eating out. I'll be honest.
Yes.
And, and a lot of people with time, it's doing things that feel urgent but aren't really important.
Yes.
Okay? Answering emails.
Yes.
These sorts of things that they come in and they feel like, oh, you've got 6 unread emails. I got to go look and see what they are. The notification on Facebook, my Twitter thing went off, whatever, those are urgent. They create urgency. But honestly, if you answered in an hour, nobody's even going to know or comment, so it's, they're really not that urgent, but they feel it's false urgency that gives it an importance that isn't really there. And that's usually where most people waste their time.
Yeah. One of the things my coach has us do is, we have 168 hours in a week.
Mm-hmm.
And she has us to write down how much time we spent on, and we have all these different categories.
Yep.
And the first time I did it, I was so off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're wildly wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you stop and think, if you take that 168 and you sleep 8 hours a night, okay, which not all of us do, some sleep
Nope.
more, some sleep less, but let's just say 8 hours a night, that already took a relatively large chunk away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what's interesting, like with time, the other thing I found people do is, they'll put together their to-do list and they've got 72 items on it. And they're like, I'm going to knock out all of these tomorrow.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then you look at their calendar for tomorrow and they've got 6 meetings. Each of them are 30 minutes long. That's 3 hours of meetings, plus walk into the meeting, walking back to the office, whatever. I'm like, how long are these 72 items going to take?
Mm-hmm.
Well, most of them are going to take about 20 to 30 minutes. You're not getting all 72 done. Why are you lying to yourself? It's not going to happen. Instead, it would actually be better to go through that list of 72 and say, what are the 3 things or 5 things that I absolutely must get done? And let me actually put those down and pay attention to those because they're the most important or they're the most urgent or they're, whatever. And make sure I knock those out because I've already committed a lot of my time to other stuff. Okay. It's better to be honest than it is to lie to yourself. Because the minute you lie to yourself, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Listen, every time. So I think you just answered my question, but I'm going to ask it anyway and see if you give me a different answer. So you focus on the mindset and behavior change more than like tools, right? Mm-hmm. So what behaviors most often sabotages a person's ability to move towards their time well, right?
So I'm going to give you a framework. I'm a big believer in framework rather than tools and processes. And the reason why is, again, with tools, they only work if you use them, and you're only going to use them if they're the right tool for you for the right thing. And so, unfortunately, a lot of us spend a lot of time and energy trying out tools that aren't even the right tool. One of the reasons to work with a coach is sometimes I've got experience, and after I learn you, I can go, here's 2 that you probably want to try out instead of here's 270, that kind of thing. So that's part of it. But the other reason for processes is processes work great as long as you want the same end result and you start from the same point. So if you start at the same place and you want to end at the same place, you need a process. But most of us, when we first start out, we don't know where we are and we're not 100% sure where we want to go, And so then you need a framework. You need something that applies no matter where you start, no matter where you want to end. It's just a truth.
That's so good.
And now eventually you may want to turn it into a process and develop a process, but start with the framework. And so when it comes to time, one of the frameworks I like, it's technically called the Eisenhower matrix. Most people have heard of it, but they don't know it by that name. So I'll explain it. Imagine for a minute you have an XY old-fashioned graph, that changes, the crosses in the middle, Y goes up and down, X goes left and right, or horizontal and vertical. And on one of the axes, on the up-down one, you put important at the top and not important at the bottom. And on the X axis that goes left-right, you put urgent on one side and not urgent on the other. Okay. Now, if you imagine, you've got 4 quadrants there. One of the quadrants is things that are important and urgent. Okay. Most of us do pretty good with those tasks. Most of us, if it is urgent and it is important, most of us will knock those out. Some of us that are procrastinators actually like it when things have that sense of urgency, because it's like, now I'll do it. They'll put it off and put it off and put it off until it's almost overdue, and then they'll pull an all-nighter and knock it out. Okay. By the way, the reason that's happening is that urgency is what's actually driving them. There's other ways you can do that, and there's other tools you can use, so you don't have to do that, but that's what a lot of us do. And so those are things that are urgent and important. And again, most of us don't struggle with that quadrant that much. Going kind of to the opposite one, there's things that are not urgent and not important. That's recreation stuff. That's binging on Netflix. That's, that kind of stuff. Okay. It's not that it's good. It's not that it's bad. It's just, if you did it at a different time or didn't do it at all, it really doesn't directly affect your life a huge amount. So this isn't like self-care kind of time.
Right.
Literally like just pure entertainment time.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's the mindless vegetation stuff.
Yeah.
And again, most of us don't struggle that much with that area, believe it or not.
Okay.
Everyone always thinks, oh, people waste lots of time in there. Some people do, but most people actually do pretty good in the big term on that one. You know, there may be a day where they just lay in bed all day, but it's not the norm.
Right.
So it's the other two categories then. So let's think about them. One of those is urgent, but not important. And the other one is important, but not urgent.
Yeah.
That's where we struggle.
Yeah.
Because here's what's happened. We spend our time on urgent stuff that's not important, instead of spending time on important stuff that's not urgent. Okay. Organizing our house. I would put that in the important, not urgent category, you know, because honestly, I can always say, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do the laundry tomorrow. I'll fold the laundry tomorrow. I'll clean the house tomorrow. I'll clean out the closet tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. Okay. Tomorrow's not on any calendar. Okay. So if you say you're going to do it tomorrow, you haven't put it on the calendar. All you've done is defer it. So literally, by the way, important but not urgent. One of the best tools you can use is schedule it. Yeah. Make an appointment to do it. You know, make the appointment with the coach, make the appointment with another person, make an appointment with yourself. Okay. But schedule it, literally put it on your calendar.
Put it on the calendar.
It happen. Say, I'm committing to do it here. Now, again, for some of us that we still struggle and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot more to it, but that's the starting point. So how about the other one? Urgent, but not important. Those are the distractions. Those are the phone ringing. Those are those unanswered emails that are over there flashing in your inbox. That's that little red circle on the Facebook that says somebody's posted. I need to go see what they did. You know, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I really don't care what you had for breakfast right this moment. You know, it's not that important to me. So it's the distractions, but they pull us away. They pull our attention away. They pull our attitude away. So what we have to do with those is one of two things. Sometimes one of three things. One is delete them. Okay. Remove them from your life. Some of those things, okay, you probably cannot remove your phone completely from your life. So we can't delete everything, right? If I stop looking at email and my work involves looking at email, I'm probably going to get fired. So we can't delete all of it. So, okay, what else? Delete, delegate, okay, or delay. And here's what I mean. And delay could also be batch, but then it's not a D. So I like the D. So it's, delegate, delay. The reason why delegate is, honestly, you could probably have someone that scans through your emails. And nowadays with AI, we're starting to get AI that'll do this. And it elevates and says, here's the 3 emails you actually need to pay attention to. The rest of these 72 in your box are noise. Okay. Now just to go answer those 3, because those are actually important.
Right.
The others are noise. They're distraction. You can also delay in that you can batch your time. Again, there's nothing wrong with answering emails. What's wrong is letting them interrupt you when you're doing other stuff.
Yes.
It's the interruption that's bad, not the email.
Yeah.
So I look at my email about 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And I answer my email about 3 times a day. By the way, somebody out there is going, yes, but I'm in a high-powered sales position and I can't do that. I have to immediately be available for my clients. No, you don't. You're lying. Okay. I have worked with some folks that are selling hundreds of thousands of dollar products, high touch sales.
Yeah.
Huge sales cycle, big turnaround. What you do is you owe it to your clients to communicate that, hey, I only answer emails at this time, and this time. If it's so urgent that you can't wait, pick up the phone and call me.
Yep.
And you know what? Most of them don't call you because it's usually not that urgent.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, and by the way, if they do call you, now it's urgent and important. Answer the phone.
Okay? Right.
It moved categories. But
yep.
So we blind ourselves to these things that we can do to when we're doing tasks. We need to be aware which of these blocks is it in, and is it worth spending the time on?
Right.
And that's why it's a framework, because I can apply that framework regardless of the task, work, home, whatever it is, and begin to create some filters that let me begin to say no to things and say yes to things, but with intention. We're always coming back to that intention thing.
Yeah.
It's the difference between an opportunity and a squirrel. There's a squirrel on the shelf behind me. Same reason. Opportunity, it's an alignment. I need to go for it. Squirrel, it's a distraction.
Yeah.
I don't need to pay attention to it.
Man, that was some good stuff. I can't wait to watch it. Like, can't wait to go back and listen to all the things and soak it in that you just said. It was some great stuff. This is my final question, and then I'll let you go. A lot of people, they kind of feel guilty around money, spending money, saving money, all the things. How does proper stewardship of our treasures, how does that bring peace, order, and lessens the pressure?
Yeah, what's interesting. So stewardship, again, I'll define for folks that maybe don't know or aren't familiar with that word. Because unfortunately, even if you go to church, a lot of times stewardship has basically come to mean we're starting a building campaign. Would you please donate?
Hello.
And unfortunately, that's not what stewardship means.
That's not what stewardship is.
But it's what it's come to mean. So what stewardship really means is, again, it's a mindset. It's a belief. It's the recognition that you are the manager of things, but not the owner. Okay. So historically, where it comes from is back in feudal times, you would have a lord who would own, the castle and the property. And then you'd have like tenant farmers or serfs that worked the land. And, they had knights and they had retainers and they had different people that did all these jobs. Well, if I'm the lord, I don't want to spend all of my time managing all of the ins and outs of who's paying taxes and who's not paying taxes and, all of that junk. That's right. That's icky. I don't want to do that. I want to go hunting. I want to do all the fun stuff. Right. That's what the Lord used to do. So the Lord would hire a steward. It was his job title. And the steward, by the way, lived in a pretty nice part of the castle and had nice clothes and was very well taken care of. In part because the Lord didn't want them to be tempted to steal from him. So they got to live a good life, but they took care of all that minutia. But the truth is they didn't own any of it.
Right.
They just managed it on behalf of the Lord, which is why it's become a religious statement. And in the Bible, it's used as the analogy of we are given our blessings by God, and our job is to manage those blessings on behalf of God. But here's the truth. Even if you're not religious one iota, it's still true. You are a manager, not an owner. Here's how I know that. Have you ever seen a U-Haul following a hearse? Because at the end of the day, when it is the end of your day, your stuff doesn't go with you. Okay. Even the pharaohs who buried all their stuff with them, somebody came along later and stole their stuff. They didn't get to take it with them. Okay?
Oh my goodness.
So we don't take our stuff. We are not owners. We are simply managers, period. Okay. And once you realize that, then all of a sudden it's like, if I'm a manager, it's my job to manage this well on behalf of someone else. And here's what's interesting. Most of us actually do a better job of taking care of things for other people than we do of taking care of our own stuff.
That's true.
Think about it. You go borrow something from your neighbor. Man, you don't want to break it.
Nope.
You want to give it back to them in better shape than it was in when they lent it to you.
That's right.
You polish it up a little extra and make sure it's clean.
That's right.
Or most of us do. I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions to this, but most of us do.
Of course, yeah.
Because our mindset is that's not mine. I want to take care of it for them. Same mindset. It's an abundance mindset. It's an open-handed mindset. And the interesting thing is when we start to hoard, when we grab a hold of everything and we close our fist around it, and we go, I'm not going to let this go. I'm going to hold on to it. It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. Well, nothing can get out of a closed fist, but neither can anything go in. Things can't flow in either. And the interesting thing is when you start holding it with an open hand and you start going, this is okay if I have it, and it's okay if I don't. It's not really mine anyway. But if I do have it, I'm going to use it and manage it to the best of my ability. to not just bless me and my family, but to bless the people around me and the people I care about and all of these other things, all of a sudden things start to flow in too. They also flow out, but they also flow back in. And money, by the way, one of the names for money is currency. By the way, same root word is current, as in to flow. So if money's not in motion, it's not doing its job.
Yeah, it should be flowing.
It should be flowing. And sometimes it's flowing in and sometimes it's flowing out.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's flowing.
But our job is to manage that flow, but not in a greedy kind of mindset, more in a abundance mindset.
Yeah.
An other focused mindset. And when we can do that, everything else starts falling into place. All of that guilt and stuff starts to go away because you're not making decisions the same way anymore. You'll literally think differently.
So when I talk to my clients about the purging, I talk to them about that closed hand and that law of reciprocity.
Right.
And your house does not get bigger. It's still the same. So if you keep bringing things in, it gets smaller, it gets tighter. Yep. You got to release some things and open your hand in order for things to create room for things to flow and to bring things back in.
Yep.
So it's just, that's that conversation we keep having. It's the same.
It's the same mindset. It's just
the same. Yeah.
Again, it shows up in relationships. It shows up in money. It shows up in time. It shows up any of our resources. That's the cool thing about frameworks. Frameworks work regardless of the specific example.
Gotcha.
Now, the way we use them may be different. The framework, the words we use and that kind of thing. But same thing. It's the same mindset. It's the same thinking. I think the storage industry, if I remember right, last time I checked, and I'm talking about renting storage space.
Yeah.
Renting place that it's something like $6 billion a year in the US. Okay. So stop and think for a minute. I'm going to connect literally physical space to money. Stop and think if all of us managed to let go of, let's just say 50% of that stuff. Not even everything, because some stuff that's in storage is probably there for a good reason. Okay. And I'm somebody's moving or other reasons. So I have no problem with storage per se, but sometimes what it is our house got too small. So what did we do? We just went and bought some more house.
Yep.
Now it's not a house we live in, but it's for our stuff.
Yeah. That we don't look at, that we don't see.
We probably forget it's there.
We don't know what's in there.
My wife and I moved last year and we found a couple of boxes that we hadn't opened from the last time we moved 26 years before. They were in the attic.
Yeah.
And we pulled them out and went, what's in here? And we looked at each other and went, I have no idea. Well, let's just make sure it's not anything important.
Yeah.
If it is, okay, we'll move it. And if it's not, throw the let's either gift it or throw it or take it. We don't need to move it, because we obviously do not need this, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We haven't looked at it for 26 years. Now, in one case, some of it was stuff that was keepsake stuff. Okay. That was But the other stuff, we went and took it to Goodwill or something. Because again, it's that same idea of we don't think about it. We become blind to it. So going back to the storage industry, if we took half that money, imagine if half that money was in circulation to do good things instead of being tied up to rent a space to put stuff that we not even care about and don't look at.
Oh,
that'd be $3 billion a year. That's a huge amount of money.
Crazy. Listen, so when I hear one of my clients tell me that they have a storage unit, I cringe. I'm like, oh.
We have to add that to the list of things to organize.
Yes. We got to figure out a way for you to eliminate it. Right. That's my goal. Right. Like, you're wasting money. I just talked to a potential client. She's been in this house for 9 years. The house is humongous. And she has a storage unit and she's paying $300 a month.
Yep. Doesn't surprise me.
Like, what are we talking about here? Okay. And so my goal is always to figure out how we can best utilize your space so that we can eliminate that storage unit, But anyway, Scott, we could talk about
$300 a month. That's $3,600 a year.
9 years.
9 years. So call it a little less than $4,000 and $36,000, a little less than, so it's about $35,000. That's a pretty sizable chunk of change. I think I did. I'm the finance guy doing math in my head on the air. That's horrible, but because I probably did it wrong. But what it boils down to, I think I did it right. That's about $35,000. So yeah, it's a sizable chunk of change.
Mind blowing when she told me that.
Yeah, but all she sees is $300 a month.
Huh?
All she sees is the $300 a month.
A month.
So it doesn't feel very big to her.
No.
You see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So that's one of the reasons when you add it to 9 years, all of a sudden, that's a number. That's something that makes them go, oh, my Lord, I haven't,
Yeah.
That's a big chunk of a kid's college fund.
That's a car. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
you can put a down payment on owning a business that's a storage unit with that.
So many different things. That's a lot of, I feel like, wasted money because you haven't looked at the stuff. You don't know what's in there. It's just like we can go on and on about that. Like, it's crazy.
Agreed.
Well, Scott, listen, I had such a good time. Thank you so much for being here and imparting us with all this wisdom that you gave us. I can't wait. You guys need to watch it again. I know you didn't get all of that the first time, so go back and watch it again. So, Scott, would you tell the organized listeners, give them a final word that you would like to leave with us today, and then tell us maybe how to find you, what you're up to, what you would like for us to know about you and your business.
Absolutely. So, first off, to everybody listening, none of this stuff is easy, but it is actually simple. And what I mean by that is people laugh all the time because they hire a coach and they expect the coach to come in with all this insane knowledge that they never heard before. And it's like, yeah, pretty much I'm going to tell you stuff you already know.
Yep.
It's because it's not knowledge, it's not information, it's action. It's belief. It's that stuff that's holding you back. It's not lack of information. Which is why ChatGPT and Google don't solve your problems. It's because that's just getting more information that doesn't actually help you with the accountability and the follow through and all the other stuff. That's what a lot of times for a lot of us, we need to get started.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, I actually put together a landing page just for your listeners with some resources on it. So if you go to my website, which is inspiredstewardship.com, and then put in /TOL. So just TOL. What you'll find there's some free resources you can sign up for. They'll come straight to your email on time, on money, and on talent. As well, there's information about my book, Inspired Living. You want to kind of some of those frameworks that we've talking about. And honestly, the exercises I shared, they're all in that book, plus a whole bunch more. You can purchase that straight there. You can find it anywhere books are sold. My podcast, there's a link there for that, as well as a place if you wanted to jump on a call and talk more about what I do. If maybe something I said resonate with you, you can find all of that again at inspiredstewardship.com /TOL.
Nice. Awesome. You guys, and we'll definitely have that information in the description. We'll have it in the show notes, depending on where you're listening to this podcast at. Once again, Scott, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. And listen, you guys, on this Organized Life podcast, you guys know we are working to create the organized life. So we are on a journey. So this was just one of the stops on our journey that we spent here with Scott today. If you're working to put systems in place in your life, right? Remember here, we are always trying to work and save in all 4 areas: space, time, energy, and money, right? So that's our systems acronym. Why? Because you could be saving in all 4 areas, okay? If you look around, if you're not saving in all those 4 areas, you maybe want to tweak something, change something, add something, do something a little bit different, all right? If something here resonated with you, if you have a question that you would like to ask, if you would like to be a guest here on the podcast, just send us an email at info@xtremeaudacity.com. We'll get you into rotation. We'll get your topic into rotation. And with that being said, once again, thank you, Scott, so much for being here. I really appreciate you. And until next time, Ciao.